Well, I want you to meet Katarina MacLeod today. Katarina was sexually exploited for 15 years in her life, and now she's the founder and executive director of Rising Angels. Katarina, welcome to 700 Club Canada.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I look forward to hearing more of your story and this wonderful work that you're doing. But can you tell us, you survived 15 years in the commercial sex trade. Take us back and tell us how it all started, Katarina.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think it really started from childhood. There was a lot of sexual abuse going on when I was a little girl, which kind of led me vulnerable into a lot of abusive relationships. And I had married a man who was very abusive. And a friend of both of ours ended up killing this man. And he involved me after the fact and kind of held me and my kids hostage for 3 years and wanted me to deter the police by joining a women's abuse support group. And I did. And in there, I met a woman who was a pimp and she lured me into the sex trade. So for me,
Wow.
I thought, if I could save money, I could get out of the situation that I was in, I could protect my children. So many things went through my mind at that point, and that's kind of what led me in there, not understanding that it would be 15 grueling, horrible years.
Wow. I mean, I hear what you're saying, wanting to get out of a bad situation. It felt like a way out, but it turned into an even worse situation. What was it like for you in those years? Like, did people view you maybe on from the outside as living a normal life and it was all hidden, or what was it like?
In the beginning, people didn't know, and I was very good at hiding it. So it'd be like when I was at home with my kids, I was Cats and I was Mummy. But then I would get ready for, to go to work, and this alter ego kind of takes over, and you become that person to be able to do this kind of job. So that's what I would do. But then, 15 years in, it starts to seep over into your everyday life, and I couldn't hide it anymore.
Right.
Everything I did oozed sexuality. Everything became about money. Everything about became about protecting myself. It changed me to the core of who I was. I just became this angry, um, violent person
Mm.
who was being abused every single day of her life. And after a while, I couldn't hide it. I couldn't hide it from my kids. I couldn't hide it from my family. People knew,
Yeah.
but there was no talking to me, I guess.
Right. Well, what happened that eventually you got out? Did God play a role in that?
Oh, God played a huge role. God has a huge sense of humor, I always say. Um, it was actually a client who had got me out of the
Wow.
sex trade. And he took me out, and I became his private prostitute. And 3 years later, he left me. I had nothing. And my daughter, Deidre, um, she was a Christian. Like, I think when she was 12, she became Christian, and I was in the game. And she would pray for me. She'd post scriptures on my door, all kinds of stuff. And I really hated God. I really hated him. And 3 years of being with this man and him leaving me, I thought that I was going to have to go back to what I knew.
Right.
So I called my daughter and I told her, and she was devastated. And she had youth leaders in her church, and she called them and they offered to help me out. They offered first and last month's rents, where I didn't want to take it because I didn't want anything to do with Jesus people.
Mhm.
But I ended up taking the money, and that just started like a journey of mentorship. The people who gave me the money became my mentors and helped me to get my life back and helped me to do what I do now.
That is amazing. I mean, praise God for people like that, right? That were willing
Yeah.
to go out of their way and saw you for who you were. And that's beautiful. For years now, you've been helping women get out. Tell us about your organization, Rising Angels, and the work that you do.
Yeah, so once I got out, I wanted to scream from the mountaintops. I wanted people to know the truth that it's not a choice, that it's lack of choice. It's trauma that's happened to somebody that leaves them vulnerable to even think this is a decision. And I wanted to tell people that, so I started sharing my story. And my mentors came alongside of me, and we decided to, get Rising Angels going so that we
Wow.
could help women. So we mentor women. So I'll get the 2, 3 in the morning calls from these women who are, having issues, or the girls that I mentor are just struggling and they'll need somebody to talk them down. And that's where I come in. We help them financially. We run a church now for women every Wednesday on Zoom. And we
Wow.
do a lot of training to the front line so that they can understand her mindset and be able to help a woman who's gone through this.
Well, because you've been there, of course, you're a safe voice for these women, right? They know they can
Absolutely.
trust you. Yeah. You know, so many of us, we just don't get what they're going through. And so we
Mhm.
need help. And I know that's some of the ways that you serve in Rising Angels. You educate people. So help our viewers and myself. What are some signs that parents or friends should look for if they're concerned that someone they know might be involved?
Well, usually we see girls school age. So average age of a girl getting lured in or human trafficked now is 12. So we're seeing these girls who all of a sudden have a new group of friends, or they're coming home with, stuff that they couldn't afford, and they don't have a job. They're hanging around with somebody new, and the parents don't know about it. It's a boyfriend. He picks them up down the street. You start to see them, detaching from things that they used to be involved in. Like if it's school and they're involved in arts or singing or track and field, they're now not doing that anymore. They're pulling themselves away from their friends and their peers. These guys will isolate these girls. So there's so many things to look for. Like we have moms who would tell us, I would come home in my lingerie drawer. My daughter had gone through it, and I didn't clue in what
Wow.
was happening.
Wow.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
so you're seeing girls who are starting to use drugs,
Mm-hmm.
or they're getting depressed, and so these are some red flags to really look out for. It's so important to know the friend group of who your kids are hanging out with online. Who are they talking to? Educate them online, because these guys are getting these girls offline now.
Right. Well, I think what I'm hearing from you is don't dismiss this just as teenage problems, but really be
Right.
in tune, right? Why is it difficult for many women to leave the sex trade?
There's so many reasons. I mean, first of all, it becomes your normal.
Mm,
So when this is your normal and this is what you know and you feel this is all you're worth, what are you going to put on a resume? Where are you going to go? How are you going to make money? Those were always my biggest fears.
right.
What am I going to do? I don't know how to do anything else. And this is the fears that these women have. Well, how are they going to learn new things? So this is where we come along. We try to teach them, but we need financial support to do this, because some of these girls can't work for years until they go through their healing. So
Right.
that's one factor. If they're being human trafficked or they have a pimp, that fear is very real.
Yeah.
What's going to happen to them? Is this guy going to come after them or their family, or that kind of stuff? So there's legitimate reasons to why these girls are fearful to leave.
Hmm. What can the average person do to help fight against this crime?
Education.
Hmm.
Education is key. Um, Letting people know that this exists in our own backyards. It's not something that's just happening in third world countries. Human trafficking, they always think it's just the girl being taken and kidnapped. That's not how it works here.
Mhm.
These guys get these girls and put them in hotels and run them along the 401 corridor. And this is what it looks like here. So education is key.
Yeah.
Keeping your eyes open. If something doesn't look right, talk to somebody who knows, talk to the police, talk to victim services, talk to Rising Angels. If something doesn't seem right, it's probably not right.
Yeah.
So just be aware and educate other people of what's going on, especially your children.
Well, I thank you for what you're doing, Katarina, for not only sharing your story, but for educating and even educating us today. How can people find you and your resources?
So you can go on our website at www.risingangels.net. We
Mm.
also have a Facebook page. We have a YouTube channel, which is Rising Angels Awareness. So there's different ways that you can find us and get in touch with us for sure.
Well, that's great. Thank you, Katarina, for sharing your story with us. And we got to be on the alert for our kids today. God bless you in your work in Rising Angels.
Thank you.
And now this is how Charles found freedom from a painful and addictive past. Wow.